Hey ladies, okay, so this is how we make starter. Starter is the bacteria that gives the sourdough all of the flavor. The one that I have, see how bubbly it is? That means it's almost ready, but I'm probably gonna feed it one more time because I'm not ready. But, so this is 5 years old. There's some that are as old as like 1,000 years old. It's a lot healthier than yeast, but sometimes I do add yeast into the recipe. Okay, so this is what it looks like. But what you're going to do is take this, mix it up, it removes all the bubbles, and you end up with something that looks smooth like that, okay? Trying to focus. What I have done is I removed half of it. No, I do not measure, I just wing it, and I've moved it into another device. Now here's the thing, this one will be yours, okay? I'm gonna give this to you, but what I wanted you to see is how when you mix it, you lose all the bubbles, and the bubbles are the key. So now that you have that, normally you would throw the rest away if you're not using it, but I don't have to throw it away because I'm giving it to you. So the way to feed it, usually they'll tell you to use a scale, but I found the shortcut way. You can take 1/4 of a cup, and it has to be spring water, okay? You're gonna mix it in really good, okay? I would have to hold it. It's almost like a glue texture, by the way. Then after you've mixed this, you're going to mix in the flour. It's 1/3 of a cup, but the flour has to be organic. It could either be bread flour or it could be all-purpose, okay? The water has to be spring water. It cannot be tap water because that has too much chlorine in it, and it can't be distilled because that doesn't have enough particles in it. So I'm going to mix this. I'm gonna add the flour, okay, and mix it really good. After it's mixed and it's like a tough, like, I don't know, pasty, almost like glue, honestly, which is funny that I had that there, but I had that to hold up the water. Anyway, it will look something like this, okay? What you're going to do is grab a piece of fabric, okay, that you've cut out. Doesn't have to be circle, it could be square. And you're gonna put that on top with a rubber band and let it sit for like 4 hours. But the reason we use a clear cup is so that we can see the progress. And the way that we know it's ready to actually use in order to bake with is when it has doubled in size. Like right now, it goes to there, but when it's ready, it'll be like double in size. New people will sometimes put a rubber band on the area where it is so that they can see the progression, okay? Now, notice I'm using plastic clear cups. Most people use mason jars, they use spoons, but it's like glue, so that makes it really hard to wash. So I just do everything disposable at this point. That way it's not so hard to wash it. And the clear cups help me to still see. So it's like the size of a Solo cup. Wow, life has really changed since the Solo cup days, hasn't it? Anyway, same size, but different texture. It's clear color. Okay, so that's how you prepare it. And then later, I'll show you guys how to mix it into the mixer using the dough attachment. Not sure if you can see this, but you see how it kind of concaves, how the center is elevated? That's what you want. And so what happened is all the air bubbles have filled in, and that's what will behave as the yeast, you know, the element that helps it to rise when we make the bread. It's actually ready now. So that was 7 hours. You see all those holes though? That's what made it ready. I'm actually gonna have to make the dough another time when it's ready again. I'm just so tired today. So that's part of the thing too, is when it's ready, you might not be ready. Okay guys, this is how we do the test to see if the sourdough, see how it's doubled in size. is ready to be used for baking. You're gonna take just a little sample, put it in regular tap water, and if it floats, it's ready. If it sinks to the bottom, it's not. But really the floating is because of all of the bubbles that are in there. So I have 4 here. I always make extra because then it's easy for me to give away a starter if somebody wanted it. But what I'm gonna do is have a little more starter than I needed in the recipe. So what I have right now is I'm doubling the recipe. I'm going to put half of each of these cups. Rather than to throw it away, I'd rather have the flavor of the sourdough in with the water. So 2 of the spring waters into the mixer, and then and then the sourdough, and you would mix it together by hand, or this is the bottle size. I think it's like the 2 cup, 16.9 ounce. I dumped 2 of these into the mixer. Anyways, you're gonna just put it in with the water, mix it up a little bit, either by hand or in the mixer, and then I'll show you how to add the ingredients. Okay, so I mixed it in the water. I'm gonna add the flour, the salt, kosher salt, dry malt powder. It's like a diastolic malt, which just helps. It's like a catalyst to help the rising process, because this will take like 8 hours. And then a little bit of yeast, and I'll just share that recipe with you. But after I'm done mixing this, and I will explain about why you want it to be more on the wet side when you mix your dough. Normally with dough, you want to scrape off the edges until it's completely clean, the bowl, as it mixes. But with this, you wanted it to be somewhat liquid, and I'll explain why later. But these were what's left over. I'm gonna feed them again. If I plan to use it again anytime soon, like tomorrow, I would cover it with fabric. But if I'm going to use it in a month, I would label it with a date, cover it with some saran wrap, and just stick it in the freezer for a month. Okay, this is what it looks like. And then one last thing, the dry malt powder, I would keep it in the freezer so it can last a long time since you don't use it very often. The yeast, I like to refrigerate just to lengthen the lifespan of it. We're gonna cover this with saran wrap. Let it rest at room temperature, and then I'll show y'all how to fold it every 40 minutes, and then we'll go from there. I felt like I had one more thing to tell you. No, that's it. That's it for now. Okay. The one thing I forgot to tell you was to put some olive oil covering the surface of the, I'm showing you my decorations. To cover the surface of the dough with olive oil all the way around. It'll help keep it moist. Okay guys, so I lost track of time. You see how liquidy this is? You're gonna stretch and then fold it towards the center. Like this. You're supposed to do this where you count it out to do this 24 times. So I'm going from the edge, pull up, fold, pull up, fold, 24 times, okay? And this is supposed to be every 40 minutes, okay? I took a nap. It was longer than 40 minutes, but as long as you do the step, I have found that it's fine. Also, every time you do it, it gets a little bit stiffer to pull up. So if I had done this as a tight ball of dough, this would be really hard to do. So that's why I intentionally make it a little bit more liquidy, because that allows me with the stretching, and I can actually do this 24 times rather than having to do it just like 10 times if the dough was really stiff. Okay, so 3 times every 40 minutes. You can turn it off. Okay, so I had actually doubled the recipe this morning, so I'm gonna, after my 3 times of doing those 24 folds, you're gonna dump it in your bread box, okay? But I have to break it up into 2 sections since I had doubled the recipe. And I'm gonna move 1/2 to the other bread box. By the way, the dough is very sticky. So here's one, and then here's my other one. And I had put olive oil in the bread box. So I'm gonna take a little olive oil to make it less sticky. I'm gonna stretch it out as far as it will go, okay? Usually I would probably let it sit in here for like a ½ hour before I do the step, but I'm trying to leave the house, so I'm just gonna stretch it out till it fits like the bottom of the bread box, and then poke holes with my fingers. And this is the next step. You take it, fold it to the center, take it, fold it to the center, turn the whole thing, okay? Holes again. Probably get more olive oil. Holes again. Stretch, fold it to the center, stretch, fold it to the center. Flip the, well, actually I should probably seal it a little bit here. And then you're gonna take the whole thing and flip it. You're gonna let it rest. You're gonna do this 2 more times. And then at one point, when it's your last time, you're gonna preheat the oven to 400. And I'll go ahead and do holes now too. Preheat the oven to 400, and by the time it's ready, then your dough will be ready to put in. I'm actually at this point gonna refrigerate it because I don't have time to do this today. So when you refrigerate it, it kind of slows down the rising process, okay? That's it, babe. Last step. So this is it. You're gonna take this, you're gonna poke holes in it again, okay? Lift, fold to the center, poke holes, lift, poke holes, turn it, and then fold the edges over. Poke holes, turn this edge over. Okay, so now this is it. I'm gonna take this and transfer it to a baking sheet, okay? Shape it. Now this one's gonna be enormous. I also sometimes will use the cutter to cut it in half, and that way I get 2 loaves, and the purpose of that would be to be able to store them in the large Ziploc bags. Anyway, so now that we have that, I'm gonna sprinkle some salt and pepper on there. I need to wash my hands. And then the rosemary, you kind of have to push it in. It kind of falls off. Sometimes I chop it up. Sometimes I kind of mix it into the dough, but I always feel like that looks pretty. Okay, so that's it. Salt, pepper, preheat the oven 400. You'll bake it for about 30 minutes on the middle rack, and you just want it golden brown. And when you take it out, you want to make sure to put it on a cooling rack because it's very moist. If you leave it on the wax paper, like this will be wet. That's it.